If we take a look at the latest statistics on the population of the planet, we are approaching 8 billion people. Surprisingly, more than half of that number is online. This means that today, from wherever you are, you can communicate with more than 4 billion people around the world. But in the face of this massive development in communication and technology, it is hard to imagine that there are still people who still live as our ancient ancestors did thousands of years ago. Many of them are not even aware of the existence of a modern, sophisticated outside world. Although a large number of isolated tribes have been discovered around the world, to this day, we don't know the exact number of people who still live in pre-modern times, far from the trappings of modern life. Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to get our videos delivered to you. Today, an estimated 97% of the world's primitive and isolated tribes are found on the South American continent, specifically in the Amazon rainforest. More than 100 tribes still live with their own distinctive rituals and culture, which if you look at them from afar, you might feel like you're watching a documentary about the Stone Age. These tribes are characterized by enormous diversity among them. Some are large tribes such as the Takuna tribe, which has a population of about 50,000 people, while others have only one member. In the 1980s, after attempts by some governments to cut down the Amazon, one tribe was completely wiped out, leaving only one man alive. This man chose to live in complete isolation, refusing any kind of contact with strangers, so he was nicknamed Pitman. Among the most famous tribes living in the Amazon, the Yanomami stand out as one of the most isolated communities in South America. They live in the rainforests and mountains of northern Brazil and southern Venezuela. Like most tribes on this continent, they are believed to have originated from migrants who crossed the Bering Strait between Asia and America about 15,000 years ago and gradually began their journey south to South America. The Yanomami tribe has a population of about 38,000 people, and the land they inhabit in Brazil covers an area of more than 90,000 square kilometers, almost twice the size of Switzerland. In Venezuela, they live in an estimated 80,000 square kilometers. The most striking aspect of their lifestyle is their communal dwellings. They live in huge circular houses known as llanos or chaponos, which can sometimes accommodate more than 400 people. The center space is used for ceremonies, events, and tribal rituals. The Yanomami are highly skilled hunters, as are other Amazonian peoples, but what sets them apart is their unique system of sharing the catch. The hunter does not eat the prey he or she has caught himself or herself, but rather the prey is exchanged between hunters, with each hunter and his or her family eating each other's catch. The women of the tribe are responsible for growing crops, which provide up to 80% of the tribe's food. In addition, they collect nuts, shellfish, caterpillars, insects, and wild honey. Thanks to their extensive knowledge of plants, they are able to utilize more than 500 plant species for food, medicine, and housing construction. In 1974, one of the most primitive tribes in the world was discovered, the Korowai, who until that year had been completely isolated from the outside world. They live in a forested area about 150 kilometers from the Arafura Sea in southeastern West Papua. With an estimated 3,000 members, the Korowai tribe is still considered completely independent today. They are mostly fishermen, make stone axes, produce salt, and have extensive experience in agriculture. Their first exposure to the outside world was through missionaries. If we talk about the lifestyle within the tribe, one of the most distinctive features is their ability to build their houses on top of trees, which they did with great skill. These houses sometimes reach heights of more than 30 meters above the ground, equivalent to the height of a 10-story building. These houses are not just simple structures, but sometimes contain 1, 2, or even 3 rooms. One of the strangest stories about this tribe is that it is known among researchers as a tribe that practiced cannibalism. On the northern island of Sentinel, located in the Indian Ocean, lives one of the strangest tribes on Earth, the Sentinel tribe. Estimated to be 60,000 years old, this tribe has managed to completely isolate itself from the outside world, so much so that the number of its members is unknown. However, researchers have made a rough estimate of its population, ranging from 40 to 500 people, without any precise confirmation. The reason for this is due to the extreme violence with which the tribe deals with any attempt to approach the island, as they immediately attack anyone who approaches their borders. The tribe lives in dense forests, which has made it difficult to access accurate information about their lifestyle, culture, and language. However, there are only 3 confirmed facts about the Sentinelese. They are extremely fierce, rely on fishing and fruit gathering, and know nothing about farming. Despite their violent nature, that hasn't stopped some researchers and curious adventurers from trying to find out more about them. Unfortunately, most of these attempts failed, and some even ended up with bloody endings. One of the most notable incidents associated with the Sentinelese occurred in the summer of 1867, when the Indian trading ship Ninoy was wrecked. Some 86 passengers and 20 crew members survived and made it to shore. The next day, according to the survivors' accounts, they were brutally attacked by members of the tribe. Another bizarre incident occurred in 2004 following the tsunami. The Indian government decided to send helicopters to fly over the island to check on its inhabitants. As soon as the helicopters approached the ground, tribal members started shooting arrows at them in an attempt to drive them away. The reason for the tribe's extreme violence towards strangers is likely due to an incident in 1880 when a British naval officer decided to kidnap 2 adults and 4 children from the tribe and take them to Port Blair. Shortly afterward, the adults died of an immunodeficiency disease, while the children were sent back to the island. It is believed that the rest of the tribe thought they had been killed, which created a strong hostility towards any stranger who tried to approach their island. In the end, the question remains, why are these primitive tribes that we talked about still living today in complete isolation, far from the means of communication and the modern world? The answer lies simply in the fact that most of the governments of the countries where these tribes are located decided to leave them alone. This decision did not come randomly or suddenly, but was the result of previous experiences and repeated attempts to communicate, which often ended in disasters. In 1492, when Europeans began arriving in large numbers in the so-called New World after the alleged discovery of Christopher Columbus, one of the biggest disasters in the history of indigenous peoples occurred. In less than 150 years, widespread diseases such as measles and smallpox, which Europeans carried with them, wiped out approximately 80 to 95% of the indigenous population. The main reason was that these people, who had lived for thousands of years in isolation from the rest of the world, did not have any developed immunity to resist these diseases. In addition, confrontations between settlers and tribes at the time often ended in violence and bloodshed. For this reason, some governments later decided to avoid any direct contact with the isolated tribes, limiting their efforts to sending occasional flights to check on their numbers and general condition. International organizations such as Survival International and the Brazilian government's FUNAI Foundation, among others, work to protect these vulnerable tribes from outside interference, whether from individuals or governments. And that brings us to the end of the episode. Who's been following us up to this point? You guys are some of the coolest. Don't forget to give us a like before you leave so we know how many of you made it to the end. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear them in the comments section.